And so now we are going live on Facebook. What? I don't know what to choose where we are going to. We are sharing to a page we manage, sorry. And then we want to go to Upper Midwest Bead Society. And then next. Please use the live API instead. I don't know what that is.
You sound like me. Say what?
I know.
What is that? What am I supposed to be using? Don't get it.
I know, exactly. Okay.
Oh, goodness.
Basics live with Maggie, Renelle, and Rochelle. Whoops, I can't spell my own name. Cross post to Bobby Bead. There we go. Go live. I know, you're probably seeing me. There we go. I want Bobby Bead. I know, you're probably seeing me. All right, we are live, and so welcome everyone to our Beading Live Saturday. Maggie Thompson is our president of our UMBS, and she's going to tell us about our fun today.
Okay, I guess I'm going to tell you about our fun today. Maggie Thompson here, and I'm going to do something called a boho box weave bracelet, which is basically the same box weave that you used to do at summer camp, only with those awful little plastic thingies. So I've upgraded it to be more adult friendly material. So it's easy to do, and it's fun, and then you can add your own little dangles to it. I've got a lobster clasp, you could use a magnet, and you'll do wire wrapping to make the loop. So I'll be teaching first, but at this point I want to hand it off to Renelle, and you tell me what you're doing.
Hello and happy Lunar New Year. Today, I'd like to honor and celebrate the Chinese New Year by showing you how to thread a guru bead and finishing off a mullah bracelet with a Chinese good luck knot.
Yay. We need all the luck we can get right now.
Yes.
And
okay, and then we've also got Cliff Swain Solomon. Is that how you say your last name?
That is.
Okay, and we've got Cliff here. He'll be presenting at our regular member meeting on March 1st, and so I'm going to hand it off to him, and he'll give us a brief little blurb of what he's going to be doing.
Thank you very much. Yes, so I'm very honored to be invited by Rochelle and Maggie to be speaking at the meeting next month. And what I'll be talking about is how you can have this idea in your mind of, I really want to make whatever's inspiring you that day, and how do we take it from that inspiration to planning something that's cohesive and finally bringing it to life? How do we pattern it? What are some shortcuts that we can take? What are how do we get the textures that we want into a piece? How do we get the right colors that we want? How can we play with color? All the different elements that go into bringing something to life and planning it and coming up with the composition of a piece. So a lot of fun stuff that we're going to be covering in an hour and a half. So it's going to be very packed with lots of useful information.
Looking forward to it, definitely. And
Me
so if you
too.
want to join our meeting, then join the group. We're the Upper Midwest Bead Society member group 2021 page on Facebook. And we are also Zooming all of our meetings. So you can join us for the meeting 2 different ways. And you can see umbs.org on further details also of how to join the Upper Midwest Bead Society. And so thanks so much, Cliff. I am so
Thank you.
excited for Monday's meeting. And
Me too.
and also we're looking, are you going to join us for the March spring
am.
possible beading live?
I
on March
am.
20th, first day of spring?
During that, I'm going to be teaching long forgotten stitch, Indo-Chinese spiraling box stitch.
Wow, that sounds
So it's going to be a
wonderful.
lot of fun. Makes a really lacy netted stitch that's fun to make into necklace ropes, bracelets, or other projects.
Oh, super. Well, looking forward to that. And that'll be March 20th, Saturday. It'll be the first day of spring. So that'll be in a month.
Wonderful.
All righty. Well, then
Okay,
we'll
thanks
see
for
you
having
later.
me, and we'll see
Yep.
you all soon.
Bye, Cliff.
Thanks,
Bye.
Cliff.
Bye. Bye, Maggie.
Bye.
And so then last at around 3 o'clock-ish or so, I will be teaching how to make a wide variety of different wrap bracelets. So leather wrap bracelets work up really quick. You can use button clasps, you can use hook clasps. There's all different ways you could add beads to it, different kind of beads. And so this is a fun way of using all that bead stash you got laying around, whatever extra leather, and make something quick and easy for Valentine's Day tomorrow. So stay with me later or come on back at 3 o'clock and I'll be joining you then. But until then, Maggie is going to start off with our boho box bracelet.
Okay. And if everybody wants to just bear with me a minute, I'm going to point my tablet down so you can see what I'm doing. So I don't want to make you seasick. So hang on just a minute, and then we can look at what our supplies are and how we're going to be doing all of this. Okay, so first of all, you're going to need something to weave with. And this is 1/4 inch ultra suede. You know, it's not the real suede. And I have tried it with real suede, and that's a lot stiffer. So I prefer this ultra suede. Excuse me. And that's what I did this one with. So it's a little softer and moves nicer. And then you'll need a couple of chain nose pliers to open and close your jump rings. You'll need a round nose plier to make your wrap loop. And you'll need a side cutter to cut off the wire. You'll need a couple of end caps with the holes in. I think these are 10 millimeter inside diameter. Let me just see if I can get this, get my lighting a little better here. I'm not sure if that helps. And then you'll need some kind of a clasp and jump rings, 2 4-inch pieces of wire, 20 gauge. And then you'll need super glue. I don't think I like that light. So to get started, now I have a PDF that I sent to Rochelle, and we'll check with her after I'm done here as to where you can get that download. And in the PDF, I do say use a rubber band to start out with. You take your 5 feet of 2 different colors of suede and fold them in half. So you found the middle, and you can wrap a rubber band about this. I actually just went ahead and took one of my pieces of wire and wrapped that around. And we'll be cutting these 2 little loops down afterwards because they just won't all fit inside that end cap. But we're not going to do that until we're done braiding. So when you start out, so then you're going to end up with 4 pieces of suede. Let's see, I want to get them. So you're going to have one color that will go basically north and south. I'm going to move all this other stuff out of the way so we've got a clear view here. So north and south, and then there's an east and a west one, and that is the contrasting color. And to start out, you take, and you'll notice that they're all centered this way. Once we get one of our braiding steps done, they'll be in place. Okay, so here are the north and south, and I folded them over the top, one along the right and one along the left. And then I'm going to take the east or right suede cord, and it's going to go over the nearest color, nearest suede, and under the second one. So then you're going to pull that like this, and you don't have to pull it, real far. And then we're going to take, sorry, I'm going to get this off camera here for a second. And then we're going to take the left or west one, and again, go over and under. So you're always going over and under. One on the top and one on the bottom. And when you get that done, let's see if I can get this right here. And then we're going to pull them down. I got to take it off camera a minute to pull it right. And I'll be right back. Hold on, folks. Okay, I'm getting there. Over and under. And as you can probably tell, the first one is just slightly tricky, which is why I kind of have to do it off camera here. Okay, so then you get your 4 pieces going, and then you pull them down so you end up with a box like this in the middle. So your one color, let's call it a color, north and south, will always be north and south position. And if you'll notice now, one is on the right and one is on the left. And your east and west are on the bottom and on the top. And that will alternate back and forth as we continue. So now we're going to do the same thing. You take that north one and bring it down over the top of your thumb. South one goes up over the top of your thumb. And then I like to hold them like this. And then we'll take the east one, which is also on the bottom. So that'll go over and under. And then I just switch hands and take the top one and go over and under. And I'll do this a few more times. And then you're just going to pull this down. Until you get it looking the way you want it to look. You know, you'd like them all to be uniform. And then we're going to do it again. North goes down, south goes up. And now, if you look, your right or east one is on the top and your west left one is on the bottom. So those will alternate back and forth as you do each stitch. So make your little circle on the top with the two north and south. And top. Over and under. And then your left side will again go over and under. And it's repeat, repeat, repeat. Until you get the length that you want. Now I'm going to show you a couple of things here as you take this north one and put it down. It's on the right side. And the south one goes up like this. What you're doing, if you're looking at it sideways, I guess I would say, on the right east one, you're going to go over this one, and this one is not forming a loop. It's hanging, just hanging down loose. This one on the right that you're going under, so you're going over the one that doesn't have the loop, and then you're going over that one, you're going under the second one that is forming a loop. It's just another way of looking at it. And then the same with the left west one. You go over, and then you'll see that this one that you're going to go under has a loop in it. And that's how you get the 4 pieces to always create your stitch. Okay, we'll just pull these down like we actually know what we're doing, huh? And you keep doing that until you get it as long as you want. And you can see on the side, you always end up with one color down 2 sides and this other color down the other 2 sides. And it's a square braid, obviously. And I'll show you on this example. Be able to see it a little better, and it stretches. very soft and it stretches. And it also moves nicely. So I'm going to do a couple more of these stitches real quick. And just to get a little more length on this. So we're going to go, I'm on the top, I'm going over and under with the right side one. And then on the left side one, again, I'm going over and under. And then you're pulling all 4 cords until you get them cinched down and you get your little box. I'll do one more. So north and south get folded over. The east / right one goes over and under. And the left or west one, again, goes over and under. It gets a little easier, you know, the farther along you get, because you don't have such long strands to work with. So get this, and you want to make sure, as you saw on here, I had this one twisted. You want to make sure you get that untwisted so they all lay flat. Now, we'll get to this in a minute, but my other example was with 2mm satin cord. That was a little tougher to braid just because it's so slippery. As you can see, when you pull this down tight, it stays where you put it. And the satin cord is a little more slippery and tends not to stay. But that ends up being stretchy too. So you just have to be, you know, a little more in control of what your fingers are holding. All right, so now we've got it this far, and we've got maybe an inch worth. So now I'm going to show you how we're going to handle putting on the end cap. And what I'm going to do first is find my scissors. Here they are. And I'm going to cut this down a little closer to where I've got that wire wrapped. And then I'm going to take my super glue gel. The front of it, there we go. And I'm going to put that all around here. And spread it around a little bit and put on our end cap. And you want that end cap to go down very firmly against the braid. Okay, so I tend to get a hold of that wire with my left hand because I'm right-handed, and then with the round nose pliers, and push it down as firmly as I can against the braid. So then you're going to make a wrap loop, and I'm going to assume that everybody knows how to make a wrap loop, and if you don't, you can find it on YouTube pretty much everywhere. So I'm going to move it off camera here just to make my wrap loop because they're a little tough to do underneath the camera. And So there I made my wrapped loop, and I'm going to cut off the long piece of wire here. Throw that away and just bend in your little end so it doesn't poke you. Let's see if I can get that there. And straighten out your loop. I don't believe I've ever done a perfect loop where it was completely straight. I always had to straighten it out. But now you can see that that's down nice and firmly against your braid, and it's going to stay there. And then, of course, as the glue dries, it's just never going to come off. And so you would do the same thing if you were going to get to the other end. So we'll just pretend that this other end, that we have a long enough braid. So to wrap the wire around, to do the other end is just like this, you know, leaving one long end. And if you twist it with your hands and that makes it tight enough, sometimes you have to do it with your pliers. You just want to get it tight enough around the laces that it'll hold. Just like that. And then, let's see, get my side cutter and cut off that short little piece. And you don't really have to worry about how lovely this looks because, of course, that's all going to be covered by your end cap. So then we just want to go like that. And so then I would cut these off very close in here and then do the same thing that we did here. Now, at this point, I would just go ahead and add the lobster clasp with one of my jump rings. Do that. If we can get that there. And I used a 6mm oval jump ring to attach the lobster clasp. And then I had an 8mm round jump ring and put all of my little dangles on there. And these are all just on a head pin, you know, whatever I thought looked pretty, and put them on a head pin. And then attached that 8mm round jump ring with another 6mm to the wire wrap loop that we made on the other end. And then you just take your clasp, your lobster clasp, and that hooks right into your large jump ring. Sure, she says. There we go. And that hooks right into your large jump ring, and that's how you take it on and off. Now, if you're looking at this one that I did with the 2mm satin, it feels a lot softer and smoother, of course, because it's not suede type. I only put one dangle on this one, but did it the same way that I did the suede one. And I think that's about it. These are, I mean, that's really how easy these are to do. And does anybody have questions that they want to ask? I haven't been watching the Facebook feed.
Well, a lot of people have been saying that they did a couple of these over the summer with the Girl Scouts.
Yep, they call them lanyards.
So yeah, Marlene Ackerman made a lanyard out of it. That must have used a heck ton of a lot of leather if it was a lanyard length.
Well, and you know what they were? It was plastic, you know, plastic laces, and you can still get those, you know, in craft stores, Michael's and wherever. So,
Why did our video go? Something, oh, there it happened. Okay, so then Shelley said, oh, I've got it on the wrong view. I get it. That's why we're having this issue. Sorry, folks. It says, what did she say? It takes me back to my summer days in the park at St. Louis Park Summer Programs. And they really are impressed with your cording. They think it's really nice suede that you've got going on here. And let's see. So far they're all saying hi. They're really liking it. So you must be doing it really, so nobody's confused.
okay. I was just going to say, does somebody want me to take the wire off this end and do the moves a couple of more times, just because?
I would like to see it over again, because it's that repetition thing, I think, that really, really makes a difference to get us, in the mood.
It does.
Here, I'll just.
Yeah, and it does, and it really helps. It's just kind of boring to watch it on camera. You're teaching. So, okay, here we go. Another shot at it. So we've got our, oops, and I have to stop hitting my tablet here. North and south, east and west. Again, you move your north and south up and over and make two little circles. Sorry, I'm going to move this up a little just to give me a little more room underneath here, like that. And we're going to take the east or right hand one, and it's going to go over the first chord and under the second one. And pull that, not real tight, but just pull it so that it's nearer the center. And then we're going to take the left hand or west one and go again over the top of the first one and underneath the second one, like that. And then you pull all four chords down until you get your nice little box knot there. And then I have one twisted. So there we go. Just untwist it. Like I said, you want to have them all flat. Okay, so I'll do one more. Up and over for the north and south. The right hand eastern one goes over and under. The left hand western one goes over and under. And pull them in. Oops, don't get them crossed. And then just pull them down. Sorry, I drifted off camera there. Okay. Does that help?
I definitely think it does.
Okay.
It's super interesting. So to get the natural, does it naturally curve one direction, or it's so flexible it doesn't matter? It was just.
No, you can make it curve any direction you want. If this one, it's curved like this, just unclasp it. You can take it and curve it around the other direction, and it works fine.
So it's super flexible. Is there a tension issue that you should or shouldn't have with this?
I would make sure that's a really good question. Thank you, Rochelle. I would make sure that these were not, you don't want to yank them really tight, but you want to make sure that they're all, you know, pretty close to the same size. Now you can see on this one, I was a little big, but I think that was the first braid. This one is a little big and it should be tighter. So
Is
you
there
want
a
to have all
way
your
to
little loops.
adjust it? Like say you went an inch further and all of a sudden you realize that one side is a little bigger. Can you like stick an awl in there and adjust it, or do you have to take it out and redo it?
I think you should take it out and redo it. You could try it with an awl, but this is such a, you know, back and forth and up and down kind of a stitch. I think you'd have a hard time. So I would definitely just back it out. And of course, you know, I wasn't watching here on how perfectly uniform they were.
Uh-huh.
But if
So do
you
you
look on this
flip
one,
it down ever to get more equal tension, or do you like to work with it holding it, or?
I don't think it would work clipping it down because it is so 3D.
Okay.
And you have to work at it from the top down. So how would you
Okay.
clip it? You know,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you can do it this way. I don't think you can do it from the side. You know, it isn't like your leather wrap, which works great when you're clipping them down.
Right.
That's the best way to handle them. So
This looks like a perfect thing to do while you're driving across the country from Minnesota to Arizona.
there you go. You know, or sitting and watching a TV movie, or, you know,
Right. Yeah.
binging on Escape to the Chateau, which, by the way,
Uh-huh.
I found almost all the seasons. I found all 6 of the 7 seasons on Peacock TV,
Oh,
which is great.
terrific. I watched one
Yeah.
this morning where it was Dick's birthday and she got him a balloon ride to have the aerial view over
In
the
the balloon
chateau.
ride. I know, that was
It gave
great.
me such inspiration this morning to look at the French countryside in the mist instead of the 30 below wind blaring out our door, you know?
I
So we're
know,
glad if
I
any of you
know.
are
That's just,
joining us from warmer climates, like Maggie's down in Tucson, Arizona, or south of that. You're in Arizona, that's for sure.
no, I'm actually on an eastern suburb of Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
So a couple hours north of Tucson, but yes, still down
Okay.
here in the lovely warm weather. And I know Marlene Ackerman is from Florida,
Okay.
and she's on.
And her idea was add some weights to the braid, you know, kind of like you do in your kumihimo in the center. Would that
Yeah,
help?
and that's something you could try. Just, you know, grab one of those kumi clip-on weights and hang it there, and that might help. I think mostly the tension comes from how you pull it, you know,
Okay.
how tightly you pull it, and make sure that everything is arranged,
Uh-huh.
and you get, you know, your square little box in there. So
And
just to, oh, okay, yeah. And one other question, where can everybody get that PDF that I had?
I told them in the comments section, I said, message us here or email me at Bobby Beat, and then I will send it to you. I think
Yeah, or anybody can email me too.
right.
I'll be
And
happy
so,
to
but I've
send
got
it.
it here on the server at Bobby Bead. And so can you attach a PDF to a message, or do you have to email it?
Gee, I don't know that answer. I
Oh,
wish I
we'll
did,
find out.
but I
But if
don't
you
know that
message
answer.
me with your email, I will email you the PDF.
Exactly. Message your email address. And I
Right.
want to
So
make
how
one more
long
comment.
of the thing do you have for a bracelet? Remind us again, how long cording do you need to make a bracelet?
Okay, so for this size right here, and with this ultra suede, you've got to have 5 feet of each color. Fold it in half, you've got 2.5 feet 4 times.
Okay.
And it's a little less. I think I cut 3 feet for this suede because it's smaller. It's 2 millimeter, and it's narrower, and it just braids up a little looser, I
Okay.
guess. You don't need to have quite so much. That's the word I'm looking for.
Right.
Yeah, so 5 feet. And on my PDF, I'll show this right here. This is
Mhm.
the front page, and it tells you all the supplies you'll need and all the equipment. So you'll have
Yep.
everything that you need there.
Right.
And I want to make one comment about this. I first taught this at Beadville in Chaska, Beadville, USA in Chaska. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And that's, you know, when Bobby Wickery had it open, and she's since closed the brick and mortar shop, and she's working on her online presence. So I just want to mention that everybody should be watching for that.
Will do. And the diameter of those end caps, are they 8mm, 10mm?
10mm
10mm, okay.
inside. Yeah, and you can see this one right here,
Perfect.
10mm, and they're just a, you know, a dome.
Right.
And again, the wire is 20 gauge artistic wire, you know, real common.
Mhm.
I wouldn't go with 22 gauge because I think it's too soft, and then you get real wobbly wrap loops, and sometimes they'll just break off.
Gotcha.
So that's why I always use 20 gauge. And like I said, you can use any kind of clasp that you want. And this, I just got this off of Amazon, to tell you the truth. It cost me about
Okay.
$5. And you get them with, you know, four different colors to a card. So very inexpensive.
Yeah, everyone's saying thank you so much. They
And-
really like your,
Yeah.
and it works up pretty quick and easy. So you'd have it done in time for Valentine's Day if you started now.
If you started today,
That's right.
you could have it done. I would say it probably takes maybe an hour to do the whole thing. So, all righty. So I'm going to get myself up here in face mode again. And there we go. All right.
Terrific.
So,
So next up we have Ronell Wheeler and our good
Hello.
luck.
Hello. Okay, I'm gonna check something here with my mic here. Okay, can you see? Oh, nope. Hello?
I have it
there we
on
go.
speaker
All right.
view, so.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that. Can you see me, however?
I can see you right now.
Oh, now you can. Oh.
Okay, so let's put it on gallery view.
All righty there.
Now we can see you, Ronell.
Okay. So today, can you see my face and not my? Okay. So today we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to do a mullah bracelet with a Chinese good luck knot at the end of it. But first, some of the materials that you'll need is 24 inches of 1mm elastic cord, which Bobby Bead carries in black and white. You'll need about 26 or so 8mm beads. The number will really depend on the size of your wrist and the size of your beads. This 1mm elastic cord will accommodate beads 8mm and up, so 8, 10, 12, and so on there, depending on how large the beads you'd like to use. Also, you'll also need a guru bead And the guru bead is basically, if you are not familiar with them, they have 3 holes. And instead of the 1 or 2 hole bead, that will, all of these cords, these elastic cords will thread them through that. And then also you'll need a cord puller. I'm calling it a cord puller. It has a little round hole at the top of it, and it's kind of twisted and so on and so forth. So we'll use that to actually pull the elastic cord through your guru bead. So let's get started with that. So we're going to walk through threading the guru bead first. Then I'm going to actually walk through how to do the Chinese good luck knot with some additional cording. And then I'm actually going to show you how to create the good luck knot by hand, which is a little bit more, had to be a little bit more ambidextrous and a little bit more fussy. So we'll get started first with the threading the guru bead first. So first you want to take your threader here, and you want to kind of gently bend the end of that. I have another one over here, actually already kind of threaded. So I'm going to just gently bend that. And then also make sure you thread your elastic cording through the little loop there. And then you'll take that end of the threader that you bent, and you're going to find one of the side holes that, if you look through the side of it, you could see through to the other end. 1 second, let me find it. There it is. Okay. So this is one side, and then on the other side, it comes out the other side. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to actually find the center hole with that. Takes a little bit of maneuvering to get through there. We have to readjust my little. Okay, and there we went right through there. So we found the center hole. And so basically you just want to take that and just pull it right through, making sure you keep your other, and I'm going to pull it right through. There we go. And then you just repeat that on the other side. I'm going to thread the loop. Then find the other empty hole that we're trying to guide this through. Lost the. Takes a little fussing through there, but it'll get through there eventually. There we go. Got that through there. Gonna rethread this. We lost that. All right, there we go. Okay, and then, okay, so then here we are with the other end that's already threaded through the guru bead. And then just pull that right on through. And then of course, nerves have the best of me here, and I just threaded that wrong, so bear with me. Okay, I'm gonna take this back through. There we go. All right. See if we can get that right the second time here. And that should pull right through. All right, there we go. You just pull that right up to the top. And then you want to add this small little bead that sort of caps off the bottom of that with using the same method, basically. Thread that through. And your elastic cord may get a little frayed. You can just cut that off. Sorry, I'm doing that off camera, but nothing exciting. But so, yeah, so just basically thread your cord back through the puller. And then it'll just pull it right through. And again, you do the same process with the other side. Excuse the radio silence while I rethread that. There we go. Oh, didn't need that much. Okay. And there we have your Muller bracelet is all threaded. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to put this aside and just remember this. And we are going to come back to it and actually do the good luck knot on this. But first, I'd like to show you how the actual folding of the knot happens step by step with a practice piece of, I actually have an old shoestring. Well, it's not an old shoestring, it's a shoestring that I never used. But so yeah, I'm gonna just practice with a shoestring and I'll show you how the actual step-by-step process works. So here is my thread, or we'll pretend that this is the actual bracelet. And so what I'm gonna do, what I did was I folded my shoestring in half, and I'm just basically gonna pin all of the edges in place, and we're gonna do the fold that way. Bring it down a little bit so you can see in the camera there. Okay, so that's the top of that. And then we're going to create 2 loops on either side of this. So we're going to create a loop over here to the side. We want to make sure we have pretty good distance or equidistant loops. I want to kind of make sure they're all uniform. I'm going to pin this down 3 times here. Okay, then I'm going to try that same, create another on this side. You have to excuse if I am a little bit, try to make sure I keep this as equal as possible. However, this is a practice test, so we don't have to have it exactly perfect for this, since we're just kind of going through the steps. Okay, so that's about, this side's a little bit too long. All right, so there we have that. So this is basically where you want to have 3 loops here. Now, a little bit about this. Now, if you have to imagine, just going back to the mullah, you have to imagine that this top portion is going to be the beads, okay? So as I walk through this, just think that this top portion is your beads here. All right, so we're going to take the tail end of this and we're going to fold it up between the beads and your right loop. And we're going to pin those in place. And then we're going to take the right loop and fold that over in between the beads and your left loop. And I did forget to mention, as we were creating this tail section, we wanted to create this little loop here as we're folding that up to the top there. So I'm sorry I forgot that. And then once we have the right loop over top of the tail and the beads, we want to then take your beads, fold them down between the tail loop and then we're finally going to take the left loop and we're going to work it through this little hole. So we're going to take that off, unpin that, fold it over and through, and then I'm going to gently remove some of these pins and just pull the tail and you get your knot. So I'm going to undo all the pins here, and because we've got one more step to go through. And you want to make sure that this is kind of loose. You don't want it to be too tight, just kind of loose there. So because we're going to just basically, the second step of this is just to repeat everything that you just did. But it will be a lot easier the second time around here. Excuse me. Let's see. So I'm going to just pin those down very quickly here. Turn this over actually. Pin this down. Okay, so then we're gonna again take the tail, fold it up between the top, which is your beads, and the right loop, creating this little loop there. I'm gonna pin those. Okay, and then we're going to take the left loop, excuse me, the right loop, and fold it up to the top in between the beads and the left loop. It's going to be a tight. And then we're going to take the beads up here, fold them down and to the bottom, keeping your tail loop over here, moving it over to the right. Then we'll take the left loop and feed that through the tail loop. I'm going to undo the pins so that I can pull tail loop. And there you should have your good luck knot. This is a little bit smaller. I could have made it a little bit bigger, but that is pretty much the basic ideal of this. And then also, we're going to then go through and if you have a little toothpick, I use a toothpick or something like that. You'll probably, when we're doing the other one, you'll use a toothpick to kind of like pick these little things out. But this is so big that I can just use my hands. The fold created 4 little clover leaves here that then you pull out and you come up, you should have like should have like 7 loops altogether with like three larger loops and 4 smaller ones. So that's how we do that with the practice session. And I also have included a URL to a site that has instructions on how to like actually go through that step by step that we can share with you as well. So now I'm going to move on to actually finishing off the mullah bracelet that we threaded. We threaded the guru. So now we're ready to do this by hand, which is a little bit more trickier with without using your pins and so on and so forth. And I have to apologize. My thumb is going to be in the way a lot of the most of this. So that's the reason why I wanted to show you how it actually would work if you didn't have, if you didn't have the tightness of your thumb in the way. So I basically take my thumb and my index finger. I put my cording in between that, and then also grab the bottom of that, or just enough so that we can create two loops. So we're going to do those 2 loops. Can't quite see the other one underneath my thumb, but yeah, so we're going to create those 2 loops in 1 move instead of 2. And basically you're going to sandwich those 2 loops up underneath your thumb and your index finger. It's a little bit of a tricky task. So, and it might come undone as you're doing it. Just start over or just try to tuck it back under there as best you can. And then you want to take, again, just like we did before, we're going to take the tail and we're going to place that above where your beads are and your right loop, creating the little tail loop down here at the bottom. So then you want to take your right loop, fold it over between the beads and your left loop and sandwiched underneath your thumb. And then you want to take your beads, fold them down and over, sandwich it as best you can underneath your thumb and forefinger, moving your tail loop off to the right-hand side. And this is a bit of a theatrics and contortionist move that I kind of do here to grab hold of your the left loop and fold it down through the tail loop. And feel free to kind of move since this is elastic, you can just move it around and manipulate it however you need to get your knot secured. So now I need to carefully pull on all mostly the tail cord to get your knot. It's almost there. to get your knot in place there. Sorry, I'm just futzing with it just a little bit. Oop. And I did mention not to make that too tight. So I'm kind of adjusting it just a bit. Bring some of that looseness back. There we go. Okay. All right. So now that we have the first part of the knot in place, we're going to, again, repeat the same steps. This time just a little easier because we don't have to do so much pinning piece layer upon layer of the sandwich. So we're going to take the tail, place it between the beads and the right loop, creating that little hole there, the tail hole there. And then we're going to take the right loop, fold it over and up between, making sure we're keeping the tail loop on the right side while we move the right loop to the left side up above the left loop and between the beads there. So keep those pretty good and sandwiched pretty tight there. And then we're going to take the beads, fold them down and under again, sandwich it between your thumb and forefinger, and move your tail loop off to the right side. And then the left side should be pretty much in place, that you can kind of lift up your finger a bit and move it. I may have to start over, sorry. That's a bit of that contortionist move that sometimes can get away from you. So starting that over again. Take the tail, lay it up between the beads and the left loop. Fold the left loop over. And then we'll take the beads, put them under, thumb, then lift your thumb as carefully as possible. Take it through the thumb loop, the tail loop, while holding all of that in place. Oops, lost it. 1 second. All right, starting over. Whew. Okay, there we have that. Well, that was, this is going to be super tiny, which is unusual because I start big and then I kind of gradually work my way into making it really small, which is actually ideal personally. So then you just go back and you find your 4 pinholes. I hope I can find them. It's so small now. Okay, well, that's pretty much the basics of it. While I try to find these little and pull them out. If you have any questions, I'm able to answer any questions if you have any.
So the tension, we have a couple questions on tension. So, you want a medium to loose tension, a tight tension? What?
Well, at the when you have the first part of the knot secured, I would say it would be a medium tension. It shouldn't be too loose, and it shouldn't be too tight, because then you'll have, like I'm probably having some problems here now, just getting in between to find these little, they're little clover loops. So you basically want to go back in, because all of these will be kind of hidden in there. There'll be like 4 of them, and then you want to kind of come in and pick those out. So you want to keep the tension pretty loose, just loose enough so that you can go back in and find those. And then you're also making sure that you're maintaining your shape of the larger loops.
So
I hope that makes sense.
sure that the loops should be how large to begin with? Like, it looked like a 1/2 inch, 1 inch. Should it be?
I guess it just depends on how big you want your loop to be. I don't know if it's a precise measurement. I would say that, if you want a precise measurement, I would say maybe, because you want to start with them pretty big, because you're gonna fold them one more time. So I would start, say, maybe an inch, but you'll have to kind of play with it to kind of, I kind of feel it out. I haven't measured out how much each one of these, each of the loops are. I just try to make sure that they're as uniform as possible. And I think the beauty of the Chinese good luck knot is that not every knot has to be exact. It has to be an exact measurement. They all have their own unique individual character. And that way, each knot has its own individuality.
Absolutely, just like people, we're all different. So our good luck definitely is all the same, though. I think a little bit, it's going a long way for us.
Yeah. Any other questions? I'm gonna undo this because it didn't work right.
So that's your trick. If it's not going right halfway
if it's
through,
not going right, just redo it. Just redo it. I think I just, usually my knots are usually a lot larger and bigger, and I try to get as close to really small if I can. This is like the smallest I've been able to achieve with a knot.
okay.
So you can do this without a guru bead. This is an example of one without a guru bead. I basically brought my, strung my beads on here, made a knot. I have these Buddha head beads that Bobby Beads sells, and I put that on, and then let's see.
Yeah, that looks like to be about a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, sort of.
Yeah, yeah.
When
So I
it's
mean,
fit,
that's
so
yeah. So that's I really like it. I like it that small, so that it doesn't, it's not too intrusive, but it's kind of barely there. But you can make yours as big as you want it to be. There's not a, I don't think that there's a one size fits all on the size of the good luck knot.
So you made your bracelet. How long should all those tails be in order then to make that knot?
Well, like I said, the cording that I'm using is like 24 inches, which is really way too much. So, I mean, you could do that. I just have enough so that I just have something to hold on to.
Gotcha.
And so it's not, your cord doesn't have to be that long, but I just give people enough cording so that they can have something to work with. And I that's basically how I work with it.
Yeah, I like to hold on to things better too. It makes it a little easier for.
And here's another example of another bracelet that doesn't have the guru bead. It just has a one bead that you put it on.
Knotted the elastic before that next round bead when you brought them together.
Actually, this one I didn't.
Oh, okay.
The beads were so big. And it didn't really doesn't feel like it needs a knot in there. I mean, you put a knot in there or not, but so I just I would fill out like what you feel like your project needs. And like I said, there's no one size fits all with how to do it. That gives each piece that you make its own individual character. And yeah.
And so, because I was just wondering about the stretchiness of your cord, when you are stretching it to pull and do the knot, can you over tighten the bracelet part of the stretchy, or is there any tricks to make sure you don't overstretch it or leave enough stretch?
Well, the stretch, I think when you're putting your finger like right here, when you're creating it, that you're leaving a little room. Actually, I feel like it leaves a little room for it, and I don't think, I mean, since it's stretchy, I don't think it's it still has enough give to it, and this is going to over time it's going to stretch out anyway, so I wouldn't worry about that so much.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out any question that all the customers are going to ask me when they come into the store tomorrow and want to make these.
Sorry, I wish my demo had like actually
it's a brand new
came out.
experience. It looks like a lot of fun.
No, yeah, it is. It's just that all of a sudden nerves and all that just sort of came together to like, okay, this is going to be really tight and did not turn out the way I wanted to. So, but these are the finished products on the other ones that I've done before. As soon as I can get this undone, I can redo it. And
yeah, well, we've got plenty of time, so you're more than welcome to relax.
Yeah, I'm almost
have your cup of
there.
coffee,
it is all done.
Enjoy your Saturday afternoon beating with Ronell.
I want to pipe in here, Ronell, and say it doesn't matter how many times you practice it, it never goes right on camera. It's Murphy's Law. It's just the way life is.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll try this one more time here. I probably won't speak as much to kind of see if I can get this to go right here, but I'll do my best. If we still have time, let's see. So yeah, I bring the two up, pin them under, sandwich them under my thumb as best I can. I know this is like a really futzy. I mean, you could try it pinning it down, but it just like, I mean, it's easy to pin it down when you're just using a piece of string and to do it that way. If you're doing a good luck knot just by itself, which is a decorative item, you could do the first way I did it and just have it, you can hang it, put some fringes on the bottom of it. It could be a decorative piece by itself. You could even use it as a gift, a bow on a gift or something like that. So so that's all, that has, a decorative purpose as well in that way of doing it. But yeah, so I brought those tails up to the top, left my little loop there, brought the left over to the right, the top, brought the down at the bottom here. This kind of gets kind of turned around. And I lost it. And I don't want to take up too much time. If we need to move on, we can move on. But otherwise, I'll continue. Otherwise, that's our first knot. And sometimes one of the loops might be a little bit bigger than the other. Okay, no, they're about right. I'm probably over tightening that. Okay, start that process all over again. Keeping the tail up to the between the beads and the right loop, and keeping the tail loop down at the bottom. Cross the right loop over the top of the to the top of the left loop. Then fold your beads down to the bottom. Move your tail loop over to the right. Maneuver your left loop in between that tail loop. Hold all that while you pull your tail cord. And we're back to this. And then you go in and pick out your clover loops here. And also did neglect to mention that this is a pretty tight knot. However, I just put a little dab of glue, just a little bit, just a little dab of glue right in the center of the knot, just to, so to make sure you keep it, maintain the knot. And the more you kind of pull these out, you'll feel that the knot gets tighter and tighter. And that is your Chinese good luck knot.
That's beautiful.
And you can cut them off, and you can even put a little bead at the end and knot it, however you'd like to do it. However you'd like to finish that off. I've just knotted the ends of the ones that I've used or that I've made previously. So yeah.
I think it is super amazing and several other people are excited too. They just, a little bit of something at the end really spices it up in many ways. And the meaning behind it, I think, is special too. I think with Lunar New Year, half of the world celebrating all night long yesterday.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I used to have a book on Chinese knotting, and I think I still have it at home, stashed up on an upper shelf somewhere. So you've inspired me. When I get home, I'm gonna have to go look for it and see what other Chinese knots I can look for.
Yeah.
Because I had forgotten how fascinating I thought that book was when I first got it. So thanks, Ronelle.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Margot Yee says, thank you so much for showing us something different as well. So we're trying, we're teaching all the basics of everything. So if you have a request for something you'd like to learn, please comment about something you'd like, and I will search through all of our artist designer friends and see who we can find that knows how to do it so we can teach you. And so wonderful. And then, so I guess, are we ready for wrap bracelets? Are we excited for the next generation? Thanks, Ronelle.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ronelle.
And so I am very excited to get down to the basics and give you a wide variety of different ways to make all your different wrap bracelets. I'll first show you how to make a basic one. And if you've never done it before, it's pretty simple, but we really want to give you the basics to start. So let me switch my cameras here, and then we'll show you what you need to do it all. All right, so first what we need is some leather, and you can use any size leather cording that you want. 1 millimeter, 1.5, 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter. Usually those are the sizes I like to use. 4 and 5 millimeter get a little bit of thickness. So the other ones I think are a little bit better. And so we will just switch here to give you a bigger view, I believe, or maybe we just disappeared. Not sure how we're going here. So we just want to make sure we got a best view possible. So then after that, you also need cording, and you can use S-lon cording if you want. You can use Toho 1G thread if you want. It's pretty much up to the diameter of the holes in your beads, which will determine the size of cording or thread that you're going to use. And so I did write in the comment section kind of a general rule, but if you are using a 4 millimeter or 6 millimeter bead, then you could get away with the fine or medium or micro Eslon that would go through just fine. And you can get through a lot of these different beads. The hole on this bead is about 1 millimeter. So the Eslon cording will tell you how thick it is. And so the medium, I believe, is 0.9 of a millimeter. So that way it works really well for you. And then generally I use these really fun bead stoppers, which will help to clamp my project onto my fun little makeshift beadboard that I made. I don't have a knotting board. If you have a knotty board, that works really well. But I have a ton of cardboard because I work at Bobby Bead and we have all these great boxes. So what I did is I made a great ruler. So I have my centimeter line and I have my inches line, depending on how you'd like it. And then I did a cross section as well. So that way I can just with my little bead stopper, I will clip on to my leather cording. I've doubled my leather cording. So for a bracelet, you want to use, I generally use about 2 feet, just so I have extra room. And so I made a loop at one end and have my bead stopper. That way I can hook it on. And then I have these great little clips like your binder clips that you can clip it on the other side. That way you can make your very own little knotty board, and you can have your measuring tape so you know exactly how long to make it. And so we're going to make a bracelet that has 6 millimeter beads on it. And so I am using a medium Eslon for this. And generally what I do at the ends of my Eslon is I will take the GS Hypo Cement and I will put a little bit of glue on the end of my cording so that it doesn't fray. And the GS Hypo Cement is a pressurized metal tube. So don't squeeze the tube, just let a little bit of glue come out of the tube and put it on the very end of your cording. And I have doubled my cording. And so I'm going to bead with 2 different ends at the same time. It's a lot easier. So I split my 6 feet of cording in half. And so I'm going to put a little bit of glue on both ends. That way it won't fray on me. And if you didn't want to use a needle, then adding the glue on each end is a really good way just to make that little eaglet thing on the ends so you don't have to. But it's a really good way so that your ends don't fray. We are going to be using a big eye needle for this. It's a really fun needle. This one is 2¼ inches long. And the idea of it, because of course it's not working because I'm live, but the eye of the needle runs the whole length. And so it's closed on each end. So whatever size your cording is will fit through the eye of the needle just fine. And since we are using this medium cording here, so I am going to put a needle on both lengths of my threads so that I can work with 2 needles at the same time. We're going to go in a crisscross fashion, and that way it gets done pretty darn quick. So you just split the needle open and each side will go in. And so I had split my thread in half and I made a loop here, which is the same size diameter as the button I'm going to use. It has a little shank on the back. These are really nice tiara cast buttons. And so the loop needs to be the same size as your button. So if your loop stretches out a little bit here, just slide it down. So what I did is I did a square knot, wrapped it around it, did a square knot, wrapped the thread around it again, and did a second square knot. So it is just not moving on me. So we're going to clamp it back to our board here so that we can work. And these needles are a little bit pointy on both ends, so be careful that you don't point or hurt yourself on both ends. They're just a little pointy, so they go either direction. And so I am going to, on the right hand side here, go underneath from the outside to the inside of my cord, and the left thread will go the same way from the outside to the underside. So both of my threads are coming out from the inside of my my little loop here, and we're going to add the first bead. And so we just take the left one and go from left to right, and then that's now going to be the right. And we don't want to splice our thread. That's the one thing you don't want to do. So always control your thread, hold it around your other fingers and pull it out of the way. So when you pass through the other direction here, then you don't splice your thread. And if it's a little thick, take your plier and just pull, because we wanted to use the thickest size cord we could so that we had a month's strength, so we could only go through it once. So now we came up from the underside, so it's going to go over the top. So since I came over, I'm going to lap, and I'm just going to do once again, come back through the inside. So I prepare each one for each bead just so that I make sure that I don't tangle my thread and I have the loop of my thread going the same direction for both consistency. So I'm going to change my pattern here and add a metal bead. And so I set my needle down, hold the bead in place so that I can control my thread. Then the left needle is going to go from left to right. So that way, like I said, if it's a little tight, because it generally is, take up pliers and pull your needle, and then pull on both at the same time so that you have even tension on both sides. And we're going to repeat that all the way down the same thing. But if you get yourself in a good practice so that you have your thread controlled and your tension controlled, then it's really darn just fun and kind of relaxing as well. And so always control it. And it's always the second one, which is a little tough to get through. But having your needle nose pliers at hand and then pulling them both. And you don't have to pull really tight, just enough so that your beads will sit right next to each other. The spacing is the same on each side, and that your cording is not being tangled or it's not being like twisted or catching anywhere. And so it's just a pretty fun, simple, easy little thing. So just remember, you have to control your thread because you don't want to splice it. So if you went through the right from the left first, then the left to the right is going to go over there. So it works it pretty darn fast. And you just keep going and going and going and going. These are metal beads that I'm using. They're by Tiara Cast. And so they are a cast bead. They kind of look very similar to the Bali beads that we sell so many of here. And then I'm using some aquamarine rounds. And these are 6mm aquamarine rounds. We've got tons of stones here at Bobby Bead on the wall. If anybody remembers seeing them all, they're so pretty. But I like aquamarine. And And so, but you can use it with any stone. But I generally try to keep the smallest bead about the same size so that I can keep my thread, the Eslon, as thick as possible so that it will go through the holes. If you're going to use a 3mm or 4mm stone bead or metal bead, then you're going to have to go downsize in your Eslon. You'll have to use the micro or you'll have to use the fine. The medium is too big. And so, but it's a really fun, just quick and easy way of doing it. And if your big eye needle comes off, it's not a big deal. You just split the middle. But that's why I always glue my ends as well with just a little bit. That GS Hypo Cement works beautifully just to keep it together. It keeps it stiff so that there isn't a fraying. And so a lot of times you don't have to use a needle, but I just am so used to using needles that I like to control what I'm doing a little bit better that way. And so we're just switching and doing a really nice little pattern. 3 of these, 3 of those, went back to 3 of these. And when you're using a round bead, it is pretty simple to maintain the right spacing because the hole is always right in the center. It's a nice, just easy bead here. And so then in the center, I'm just gonna switch and do some bigger beads because why not? I've got my bracelet here on my bead board, which tells me what my spacing is, how long it is. Here's my 0, and then I have 7 inches down here. And so my bracelets, I like to make somewhere between 6 1/4, 6 1/2 inches, somewhere in there. So the center of that is going to be like the 3 1/2 mark, which we're just about to get to. See, the loop is going to be about the end, an inch on the end. And so we're just at the center. So that's why when I design my patterns, you could lay it out on your normal bead board, the one with the little ridges that most of us all have at home, and then find out how long you're going to want it, because usually it's going to sit around 3/4 of your wrist. And so it's that way you can pre-design your pattern kind of in your head and know how many beads you're going to need. So when you switch to using a little bit larger bead from the smaller beads, I just went from a 6mm bead up to an 8mm bead. Just make sure your tension is good, and you might have to adjust it a little bit, and you can slide your fingers down here and roll it around. That's the important part about not splicing your thread, is you can always tighten your thread as you go and pull on the beads, roll the beads, and then pull the thread on both while you roll the beads. And that way you can scoot them back up to the starting point and then have a nice even side by side thread. And so you want to make sure that you're always going around the whole leather. That way you have a nice even crisscross pattern and you're completely encompassing your leather, so it goes all the way around from one side to the other. So when they're bigger, they are going to have a little bit of spacing between it, so the crisscross on the side is going to show a little bit more on each side because there's more space to get 8 millimeters across to the next hole of the bead. So you want to make sure that your cording matches your leather or complements your leather and your beads. I'm using a silver leather, and so it's leather coated in silver paint, pretty much. And so let's untwist it here. Somehow my thread got twisted, so it wants to jam up. If you keep your thread straight, it shouldn't have an issue going through your beads. So I've got the silver colored Eslon as well. It is a really nice medium silver. The Eslon comes in probably, I don't know, 150 different colors. So you've got a lot to choose from. But since I'm using silver beads and silver, I just kind of wanted to go silver all the way. But sometimes you might want to complement and do a different color. So I don't know if anybody is beading along with me and making their own wrap bracelet at home. But if you are, I hope you're having a lot of fun. I'm most of the way done now, almost here. We're just going to put on the last, finish the pattern, because if you do a center pattern, you always then want to finish off with the same pattern you started with on the other side. You need to have symmetry, right? And so I usually do everything in threes. The perfect triangle, the perfect, I don't know. 3 is just such a great number, a prime number. So I do a lot in threes. And it gets done pretty quick and easy too. So we've got 3 of the little guys, 3 aquamarine, 3 more metal, 3 large aquamarine. So just reversing it back. And so I'm just going to get down here, and that way we can then finish up, and we're going to put our button on the other side. And we'll show you how else. So you can do this with anything you've got laying around the house. You could probably even use upholstery thread if you wanted to. Something that's strong. I wouldn't really recommend anything with a stretch, but maybe you could do stretchy. I don't know, but having this just clip down on both sides makes it a lot easier. You can use both hands. You can get your tension pretty much even, and that way. So see, and here I just spliced my thread as I was going through. So move slowly and deliberately around your beadboard, because I spliced a thread that was just a bystander. And you don't want to do that, because if you splice your thread, you can't adjust any of these beads. And the Eslon is kind of a twisted thread. And so if you untwist it, you might get these little tails that kind of stick up here and there. And you can kind of glue the little tails down, but it does compromise the strength of your thread. So just want to get to the end here so I can show you how to put on your button. And like I said, You might be tempted to try to do 2 at once, go through it all, but controlling your thread is really important in this. So I'm just gonna slide my needle down just a little bit further. Wherever you put your needle on your cording, your S-line, your 1G, it's gonna put a little kink into the cording. So you wanna make sure that you're taking care of your thread while you're using it. Don't abuse it, and it'll last a whole lot longer for you. But as you can see, right where my little tail is, it's all fuzzy. So I'm not going to use anything past that unless it's just part of tying a knot. You wouldn't want to slide your needle all the way down because you're going to get that damage to your thread. Then somewhere you're going to want to work with that thread. So let's see, we've got our pattern. And so I started out with one little aquamarine. So we want to end with same one little aquamarine. And so pretty simple, quick and easy. That didn't take too long, did it? And so now that we're at our very end, we want to do that tightening thing I said, where you just kind of pull your ends, roll your beads, pull your ends, roll your beads, make sure nothing is sticking up, it's all laying flat. And then generally, just like I did at the beginning, I wrapped it around each one of these again. And then fully around, and then I'm going to tie it in a knot. So my knot is just a little bit, let me get that a little closer here so that you can check that out. So we are going to just tie, we wrapped it around a second time, and then we'll just tie a square knot, and which is right over left. And then left over right. So this way we have the first part of it just stopped in place. Everything is nice and tight. And then we have our shank button. And so since we have our buttonhole loop over there, we're going to sew our button onto this side. It's just that easy. So go through the shank and around the cord, through the shank. So I'm just basically making a figure 8. And so that way the button is looped around each one of the leather cordings, and then it's looped back through the shank. So it's going to sit a tiny bit up, and then I'm going to take the cord on the other side and do the exact same thing. So that way you're both cords, you're essentially tying off the cord and tying on your button at the same time. And that way it's just going to make a nice tight little loop right around it. I'm not sure. Oops, sorry, get my hand out of the way, go the other way. So I just have a figure 8 there underneath my button right there. And then I'll tie a square knot around it. There we go. Get that out of the way. And if you want to make another little pretty, we have our end here now. And so generally, if you want to make it just a little prettier, you could wrap the thread around and tie it again. You could make a fun little knot And so what I think I'm gonna do here, we have our ends, and so maybe you want a little accent or something. And so it's up to you. What do you want to do with your little ends here? Do you want to hang charms on them? What would you like to do? It's completely 100% optional to how you want to finish off and embellish your thing. I'm just going to make a half hitch here and wrap my cording around. And that way I can have a little loop on each side of my thread. There we go. So we now have our knot. If you wanted to put a little bit of glue on this knot, it would be ideal. And so generally I just whip out the hypo cement once again and glue your knots. And then I would just weave in those ends so that it doesn't, because we want it to not fray while we are wearing it. So this way, when it loops around, it goes right around that beautiful little, and we have all of our beads, the ones right in place. And so that way it's just a nice little loop at the end. You have tied on your button shank clasp and you are good to go. If your beads are not round, then you could do a little staggered section. And so this way, I've done the exact same thing. However, I made a loop and I put my button at the very top. So I've got my button on the top. I made a knot just for a decorative little bit. Then I double over my thread and tied it onto the end here. And then I am using just one at a time. So now I've got to clip my little guy onto my board. So I'll show you how to do it if they are a funny shape, because we really want them to be angled. See, they're sitting at a 45-degree angle. And that way, because they're kind of an oval bead, they're not round, and so they don't sit right. So this way, instead of doing a crisscross maneuver, I am just using one cording, but I'm going through it twice. And so I will clip my little bead stopper onto my leather cording, and then I'm clipping my bead stopper onto my tray. And then I have my clip here on the other end to hold it down. And I just use a little bit of slack so I can get my fingers under here. And so, so what I did is I've staggered them so they all sit at kind of a 45-degree angle. And they lay because it's this oval bead. The hole is in the middle, and when you're stringing it, it's a whole lot skinnier than it is wide. So that's why when you were doing, if you did it straight, they'd be really spread out and you would see a lot more string, and I don't think they would lay right. So when I started this project, they started at a 45-degree angle. And so this way, I am going through it twice. So remember how we said grab the leather? We want to completely encompass the entire leather. So if the cording is coming over the leather, then you need to wrap around and come from inside. Oops. So that way it'll completely wrap around the leather. So I went over the top, coming in from the inside. So I'm going to go through the bead. And since I came from underneath the leather on this side, I want to go over the leather on that side. And so that way I go over and under, and now I'm going to pass back through the same bead I just added into place. So on the left side of my leather, I'm wrapping around and going back through the bead. On the right side of my leather, I am coming from one bead to the next and then traveling from one bead to the next. So that's why it angles a little bit on one side and it's straight on the other side. But that's why we're not using two threads. It's much easier when you have a funny shaped bead just to use a longer single thread and then go through it twice. Remember, you need to control your beads, so make sure you know where you are. If you came from under your thread, under your leather there, then you want to go over your leather here. So that way you're completely capturing your leather so that your bead will sit straight. And then go right back through. And so this bead has just a slightly larger hole, and so it's a little looser. So I'm just tightening it as I go, sliding these beads back and pulling the thread my direction. Not too tight, but just enough so that there's even tension on all the beads between and even spacing on all of them. Because if it's not even, it's just gonna look a little funny. And so this way, just right over left and back through the bead. And that way, and we'll see if it's long enough here. Because when they're at an angle, it's a little harder to tell. And so we'll see what it looks like for spacing around the wrist. And then you've got your button. Yep, so that's pretty much right where I want it. So on this side, since I put the button on the loop side instead of, we are going to create a loop here the same size as the button. And so you can do that a couple different ways. We want to end our string, so we're going to do it very similar to the other side. And so I wrapped myself around there a couple times. I want to hold these straight so that they don't twist. And that way I'm holding them, and we're just going to do a half hitch. So what a half hitch is I've got a loop from this side, I wrap it around, and then I put my needle through that loop. That's it. That's all it is. So that way, all you've done is just caught your thread. And now you've got a really nice little half hitch. So if you do that one more time, so create a loop, wrap it around, and then pass through the loop. That's all it is. There's your half hitch. And so now you've got a nice knot. And so what we want to do is create a space for this button. So we're creating our loop in the leather where this button is going to go. And so we've got two pieces of leather, so that's a perfect button loop right there. So that way we have enough space for it to open and close, and that's going to catch itself. So since I've got 1.5 millimeter leather here, it's pretty flexible. So all I'm going to do is tie it in a nice double knot, and then go and make sure that my button will fit. Because you can always adjust it until you really tie it down tight. You want to make sure it's not too big and not too little. And so you have lots of options here. You can put the button at either end. You can put the loop at either end. So that way, yeah, and it still comes out. And so that way, so this will knot here, now that we have it exactly where we want it, I'm just gonna do a figure 8 to wrap it around. And then loop through there and then make a half hitch. So now I'm going to glue this and we're going to cut that off because it is done and over with. So I did another figure 8 and then one more half hitch, and then we are just going to glue this. There we go. And then when you're working with your GS Hypo Cement, don't forget to put the top on. And it is a metal, really long, fine point, and then it has a metal on the tip, which goes right into it. So your finger guides it right in there. And the GS Hypo Cement works for gluing porous to non-porous things together. So your thread is really nifty. So we have our button loop right there that we can now hook to wear our bracelet. And you could do anything you want with these little ends here. If we wanted to add some charms to the end, we could do that and add a little charm on there. If we had some beads with larger holes, we could certainly do that. And so that way you've got a fun little bracelet and all the beads are at a 45-degree angle because they're more of a rondelle shape bead. So that's a whole lot of fun if you have just your basic beads. But if you want to do something different, you are more than welcome to go through your bead stash and find just about everything and anything that you wanted to use. So what I did here, I just made a little loop and I've got a whole bunch of seed beads and a whole bunch of check 2-hole beads. I'm not sure if these colors look familiar to anybody. They're part of the brand new 2021 Toho Challenge colors. And so what I did here was I just started out with an 11-aught seed bead, an 8-aught seed bead, went up to the 6. Then I switched here and I've got some bugles going on and I've got 2-hole tiles and I've got some fire polish. I've got some cabochons. And so I just kind of went to town and was creating all these fun little segments. So kind of a repetitive pattern. So if you were to wrap it around twice, that was the idea, that this would be a double wrap. So I got this far and then I ran out of thread. And so since I'm using such small seed beads, I was using the Toho 1G thread with all of these little seed beads. And you can see it's wrapped. I use a blue thread, I believe, or a green thread. Let's see what color this is. It looks green to me because I have a green leather. So that makes total sense, right? But just because I wanted you to see it a little bit more, I put some blue thread on here. This way you can see how we add thread. So if you're using a long one, double wrap, or if you just happen to be you know, for some odd reason your thread got tangled and damaged, then this would be a really good way to add thread. So I'm just folding it under my beadboard here, and then I'm locking it with my clip at the end here. And so what I did is I doubled my Toho 1G thread onto a needle, and then I just tied the ends together. So it is 1 arm length span long, so that I don't pull. I like to use only one length so that I don't trash my thread. So what I'm going to do, how I'm going to add thread is very similar. I've got this little knot at the end, and all I'm going to do is wrap it around the leather, and then with my needle go through the loop of my knot. So that way you're starting right there. And I'm just going to push that little knot guy right to the center. So then hopefully he will stick in to the bead right next to me. And so that way he'll be covered. And so I've just got a pile of assorted beads here because why not? We've got all these Toho challenge colors. I've got bugles. I've done this fun little pattern here, but let's start a new pattern. The idea is to just pick up some beads, whatever looks good, and create a little pattern, right? And so if we want to keep it the same width, put the beads on your needle and then get your spacing here. And I slide my beads all the way down so that I can get a grip on where I'm going. So if you're doing these seed beads, I treat this just like a normal loom project, actually almost. So I wrap around the left side, and then I pass back here through on the right side. And so this way I wrap completely around my leather. I guide the beads with my fingers so that they stay above the leather cording. And then I slide the thread while it's being pulled through so that it can just sit right in place. And then hopefully this little knot of the beads I was going to stick right inside there was my idea. And generally you can do that also with the little tip of the glue. So then wrap around again so that your thread is under control. And then we're going to start again. If you want to add a 2-hole bead, one of these check 2-hole beads, you want to make sure that it is the right direction. This is the top of my bracelet here. And so you want to make sure that the top is up. And since it has 2 holes, and we're on the top here, go through the holes on the right so that the bead will be oriented correctly. Slide your bead into place. And when you're working with a double thread, always slide it between your fingers together so that you don't split your thread, don't divide your thread. And I always wrap my thread around my leather while it's on my fingers, just like this. So that way it holds it together, holds it nice and tight, but yet it controls it. That way it's now tight, it's wrapped around there, and then I can slide the needle through the bead without splicing my thread. And then I'm still holding my thread right here together so that those two don't divide, they don't split, they don't get knotted and tangled around anything. So wrap it around your leather and control it with your fingers while you're pulling it, because a double thread is not easy to work with. It sometimes really can be a tangled mess. So now we're going to go through the second hole of that 2-hole cabochon. You went through the first hole the first time. Now we go through the second hole while we guide our thread. And then, like I said, I wrap it around my leather so I know it gets wrapped, and hold it with to guide it. and you're pretty much like going to town here. So however you want to decorate this fun little bracelet, it will work with seed beads. It works with check beads. It works with stone beads. It works with just anything you want. You want it to be wider. See how that cabochon is a little bit bigger. And if I want it to have that same 3-bead pattern, it kind of bows out and then comes back. And that's the nice thing about leather. It is pliable and you can do that kind of look. There's no rhyme or reason or right or wrong. It's just your design. But just hold your finger right underneath those beads so that you have control over it and you then won't splice your thread. And you have control over your thread and all of your projects come out fun. So you just keep weaving and weaving and weaving, you know, as long as you want, and create these fun little patterns here. I do have this other neat little one, which has gem duos and teacups. It kind of has a dimensional flow to it. Just looking at it, all I did here was I created a loop at the top, and then I put a hook on it. And so that way we've got our hook attachment, and then the other side I made a double loop. So one is one length and one is the other in case you have different sizes. So that way it's kind of an alternative. But these fun little gem duos are a really neat little thing. And the teacups give it a great accent. So I'll show you how I did the teacups. This one, I just started out the same way. I made the loop and I doubled over my micro S-lon. So I did the same way that I added thread on the other one, and I just started and tied around my knot there. And so when you're working with multiple beads, then you want to make sure how you're laid out. So right here, the gem duo has a dome top and a flat top. So you want to make sure that you know where you're at. See, I just had it upside down. These 2-hole beads from check, some of them have different sides. So make sure where you're at. And so I just readjusted in my clipboard. Then we will clip the tails back down here. And so it works really well just with these great little binder clips. Like I said, it's, you know, we're at home. We can do anything. We've got so much stuff at home. You never know what you got. And so this way we, so I've got, I'm going to wrap it around to make sure I'm in the right location of where I want to be. And these teacups, one side is a dome and one side obviously is the top of the teacup. So when it's like this, we are going to be paying attention to which side of that teacup we're going through. So the first one will go through the back of the teacup, the back of the dome, and then your gem duo. So the gem duo has 2 different sides as well. The hole goes across each point. So if my string is on the left side, I need to go from the left side through the top point. And then I'm going to lay it in place so I know exactly where I'm at. And so this means I need a teacup on the right. So I need to go through the inside of the teacup to the out. And because of the shape of these, I'm trying to keep them kind of snug together. And if you're having an issue with your thread catching on your leather, you can just take your awl and then loop it up and then move it around. When you're working with more of the natural leather versus the coated leather, then your cording doesn't slide as much because this is just a natural finished leather. So it's a little bit more catchy. So since we're coming over the top of this side, remember we want to go under the other side. So that way you get a really nice balance. And now we want to go back through these two again, just like we did with that funny shaped oval bead. This way it'll sit properly. But because of the angle of these funny teacups and these funny gem duos, you only can go through one bead at a time. This is at a 45-degree angle. This is at a concave angle. So that's why I showed you all the easy ones first. This one is a little bit more tricky because you really have to be careful. Don't splice your thread when you go back through that gem duo, even though you're at a funny angle. And then when you've got your thread doubled, remember, you always must maintain control of your thread. So that way, always grab it with your thumb and slide it when you're pulling it so it won't tangle, especially the Eslon. When you're working with the Toho 1G, you don't have this problem as much because it is more of a single thread. With the Eslon, it is a 2-ply thread, which is woven, twisted. So when you're pulling it back and forth, it has a tendency to sort of unravel. So when you're working with a doubled Eslon, generally need to have your awl handy so that you can grab it, maneuver it, tighten it, and get control of it. So that way it doesn't get looped, it doesn't get tangled, and you really just have to make sure. So we did half of this one. We've got our first 2 teacups, we've got our gem duo in there. So now we have to wrap around our leather again, and then we're going to add the teacup only. We've already got the gem duo there, and it has its open second hole right here. So we go through the back of the teacup, and then we go through the gem duo from left to right. And so I always just pull once you get, where you're at to make sure you're in place. And now we're right here. We need one more teacup to finish off this little segment. So we're going through the bowl of the cup. And then since we came from the underside over here, you need to go over here. So I wrap around fully so I can get control of my thread, and that way I can hold it tight underneath there. And then we have to go back through these beads again. So make sure you pull the thread taut so it sticks to the bottom. That way your needle can go through the top and not splice your thread. This is a double twisted, double ply thread, so it's really easy to splice it. So on this side here, it's coming from the bottom. So when you go through the teacup, you have to make sure you go over the top of your leather. And that way, see, like I said, you don't want it to get tight and twisted. So I take my awl to guide my thread into place. There we go. And now we have to go over and around. See? So that way now we just did this one little segment right there. So This is the trickiest one of them all because you're using 2-hole beads and you're using little accent beads and you're using double twisted thread. So just in case you had made these before, I wanted to give somebody more of an advanced something or other to do. So that's why this one is there. You can do it where you just do your gem duos. I did one here where I have my 3-hole beams, and then I did a little peyote with the gem duos. So it's really gathered tight at the edges, and then you have the different colors of the gem duos there, and then I gathered it back and went back again, and see, these are 3-hole beads and then little single seed beads in between there. And then I did the little button clasp, and then I just added a couple little beads at the end, tied some little knots, so that way it's pretty easy to loop and catch your thread. This one is another one that I did with all the little combinations of seed beads and the 2-hole check beads, and it's a double wrap, so that way I did half of it one pattern and half of it the second pattern, so that way. And then I have this fun little apple blossom tiara cast button, and then I just created this little knot is my loop. It's a floral knot. I had about 6 extra inches of leather on each side, so if you basically just twist it around and around and around, it's what you get on each side. So I did it like this and twisted it around, and so then I just sewed it as I was going around, just looped it a little bit and added a tiny little bit of glue so that it stays. And that's on the back, so that way when the apple blossom goes through, then you're not gonna see, you know, the glue on the back. But this way it's a fun double wrap bracelet. These are again more Toho Challenge colors for 2021. I had a ball making stuff with these. This one I used a complementary color of the cording. I have the kind of a terracotta leather, and then I have the flax colored beads, so I used a brighter gold cording to give it some dimension. You don't always have to disappear. And then I added this kind of clasp. It's just a ring, and then I looped my leather around the ring, and then I added a bunch of fun little charms to the ring. When you're adding charms, generally I'm using oval shaped jump rings because that way they hold a little bit better and hang a little bit better. And so you can just do anything you want with these fun little leather wrap bracelets. You just want to go simple, you can go simple. You know, add your button on one side, and on the other side you just have to make a loop big enough for the knot or for the button to go through, and then make a knot, and you're all set to go. I mean, it's pretty much anything you got laying around the house, right? That you got left over. And so once your glue is dry, then you can just trim off your edge that you don't need anymore. And you've got bracelets for days here now. And so just a little bit of everything, something for everybody. So and they work up pretty fast, except for this one. This one takes a lot longer because it is a little more tedious and time consuming with all those crazy little beads. The double wrap takes a lot longer because it's double the length, but if you want to make a triple, double, anything, that's the theory. Just go to town. And so I don't know if anybody has any other questions. It looks like a couple of people like the teacup idea.
Yep, you've gotten quite a few comments. Thank you for the demo. It's a great setup. Everything is pretty. Great tips. Annie Zuski really likes the teacup and duo combo, as do I. I think that's a great idea. And I might have to steal that from you and use that in a new Kumi design someday.
Yeah. Well, I didn't
realize
how adorable it just was once I started, and I was using the Southwestern kind of flair here with turquoise and bronze. But I wore it last Sunday when I worked and got lots of compliments. As you notice, this one kind of turned out a funny S shape, but when you wear it around your wrist, it lays really nice. So if it's getting a little wonky or your loop twists on you, it's not the end of the world by any means. You can adjust it, you can slide the beads around, and so they're more like indestructible than you think, so.
Yeah, it's a really versatile type of design.
Yeah,
because like you've shown, you can put about anything in there that you want. I mean, you could even use those really inexpensive stone chips and combine them with seed beads.
You really could, absolutely. The only thing I noticed, like the one where these were oval shaped beads, so it sticks out a little bit more higher and lower, just because of the shape of the bead. So I'm not sure you would want to use like a bicone crystal that has a pointy edge. That might hurt. But these are just kind of scallop beads, silver beads. So they sit up a little bit, but they're not irritating or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think bicones would be just the right thing to use either.
No.
I think it might get a little scrapey on the top of your wrist.
Right, exactly. And so, but I was thinking, I haven't tried it yet, but I was thinking of, the quadrilentals, because there's 4 holes. If you wove in the bottom holes, then you'd have the top open holes where you could embellish a whole second layer because you've got holes sticking up,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So
that is a great idea. So Maria Luisa says, love them all.
It's like a difference. And so,
okay.
Well, I'm glad.
Anything else, Rochelle, or you want to read some more Facebook comments?
Sure.
I think I got most of them.
I think so.
Yeah, Marlene is, thank you for the demo. Rochelle, I'll have to try it. Patty Joe is good setup. Shelley Sloan is watching. And yeah, everybody just loves them all. And of course they should. They're cute.
Well, yeah, it's I was trying to make them a little bit more contemporary than just your basic, because like I said, I just picked up beads that were on my bead tray left over from other projects. And so that's where a little bit goes a long way, because on this one, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 23 beads. That's all you needed. I mean, who doesn't have 23 beads laying around?
Right, and exactly, that's exactly right. It's like that's your leftovers from the last 3 projects you did.
Exactly, right, because I'm working on my Toho challenge for 2021, so that's why I've got all these fun beads.
Well, and I am so excited to get home and get one of those, or at least, yeah, get a list of the bead colors and stuff and get them ordered, because I think you did just a really marvelous job picking out colors.
Well, it's a very
So,
interesting
thank
palette
you.
this year. Some of them you probably already have in your bead stash at home. And
Yeah,
for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, you can see our post about the Toho Challenge on the Bobby Bead page, on the Team Toho page as well. There's a brand new palette for 2021. And today is our last day for Bobby Beads, where you can comment with a picture on the post, and we're putting in a drawing, all your names, whoever comments with a picture, likes the post, likes the page, comments with the picture, you'll be in the drawing to win a free Toho Challenge mini kit. And so I can grab one of those fun little mini kits for you here. It's got a whole bunch of checks.
so let me back you up, Rochelle, just let me back you up a minute. They have to post a picture of one of their projects using Toho beads.
Picture of any project they've made using Toho seed beads and or check seed beads. If you've used the check, like gem duos, all those fun check beads that Starman makes, and then Toho beads. And so because the challenge is promotion by Toho beads and Starman beads and Bobby bead, which is Team Toho. So yeah, post a comment of something you've made. We want to see what you made and show it off. And yeah, so like
Excellent.
our page.
Okay, go ahead. Let's see the little mini kit again. I interrupted you. So
oh no, that's quite all right. It's because these are all the colors of the kit. And so in the mini kit, there are 3 different variations. You get all these fun seed beads, and it's a sampling of all the different colors in there. And then there's a ton of check beads allowed this year. So there's medium topaz, there's umber, there is these great Pacifica colors. So Pacifica avocado, Pacifica honeydew, Pacifica fig, Pacifica ginger, and then there's this really great polychrome pink olive. And so there are 3 different variations of check mixes in these kits. So there's it's assorted because there's so many options. We just couldn't fill them with them all. But in there is a list of all the things that you can use, so that if you have daggers and fire polish and whatever check shape that Starman makes in these colors, you can use it, or Toho seed bead. If you want to use 6s, 8s, whatever you want to use, 15s, in the Toho colors. And so this is a get you started kit on your challenge, or there is a lot of beads in here, so it depends on what you want to make. But yeah, so we're giving away 10 kits each week through this whole spring promotion, and we have 100 kits total to give out. So we gave out 10 last week, and now Bobby Bead will give out 10 this week. So find the post on the Bobby Bead Facebook page, like our page, like the post, and post a comment of your picture, or put your picture in the comment, sorry. And we'll draw all your names out of a hat tomorrow night. Or no, sorry, today's Saturday, right? Our contest runs through Sunday, one more day. So then we draw your name on Monday and announce the winner on Monday night. And then next week we're going to do it again, but on Starman beads. And so each week you just follow a different page and you can enter until you win.
There you go.
Yeah.
No excuses.
Right.
You got all kinds of chances.
Or if you want to take it upon yourself, you can just look at the list of colors on the Team Toho Facebook page, look through your whole stash, find your, pile of beads that you've got already at home in those colors and just start beading. And then when you're done with your challenge, you'll send us a picture of your finished project and we'll post them on the websites, on the Facebook pages. And that's how we choose our featured designers for 2022. So, yeah, it's fun.
All right.
So we
Sounds
want to
like a
bead with you
plan.
again.
Thanks, Rochelle. Yeah. Well, thanks so much. As
Absolutely.
always, I had a great time.
Me too.
Always. And yeah, this was
join
fun.
us
So
next time, March 20th. It's the first day of spring. You wouldn't know that it's almost around the corner, being 30 below here today. But yeah, so join us again March 20th for our Beading Basics Live. We will have Doris Coghill and we will have Cliff Swain Solomon and a couple other folks. I'm not sure yet who, but and then or catch Cliff Monday night, March 1st at the Upper Midwest Bead Society private group page, or join the society and we'll send you your Zoom link for March 1st for Cliff Swain Solomon Design and Detail. Thanks, Maggie, so much. I loved your boho box weave. I want to go home and make one of those too.
yeah, they're easy and fun to do. So thank you. It was a fun time. Thanks, Rochelle.
Well, happy Lunar New Year, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. And I hope you create something fabulous for your sweetie. So we'll see you next time. Bye.
Yep. Bye, everybody.